So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this regular public meeting of the 13th of November. And without further ado, we go with our opening word. Dear colleagues, may we have the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can change, and the wisdom to know the difference. So, once again, welcome to everyone. I was expecting for a soccer team tonight, and so there are quite fewer people than what I expected. They're probably stuck in the snow, or they were finishing a practice or something. We'll see. Maybe they'll come up. We'll work it out. So we have quorum tonight. Are there any conflicts of interests from members of council? No indication of conflicts of interests. So we go with the adoption of the agenda, moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Blanc. On the question. No questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. We go to presentations, inquiries, and petitions. 7.1. We start with the inquiries by council members to the Kodiak Regional RCMP. Are there any questions from members of council? Monsieur Godet. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to ask to the RCMP, possibly to coordinate a response or an answer with the municipality on the work that was done concerning the speeding on Chartersville. I know that citizens want to have answers to questions as to what happened, how many people were caught, things like that. So for the next meeting, if it's possible, I can give you an update now. I had prepared something. Yes, that's good. We wouldn't want you to have wasted your time making the preparing the presentation, so you have the floor. No, I'll be happy. Thank you. I can say that since the last meeting, we put the manpower in the regions that you had mentioned, and I can say that in a couple of days, actually in one day, we actually were able to give 15 tickets, speeding tickets. Also other stops, driving without a license, not stopping at a stop sign, not wearing a seatbelt, using a phone. In one day we had 15 of those such stops. I have a list here. And the last couple of weeks there were approximately 30 or 35. And it goes from expired registration, driving without a license. We even had one who did not stop at a pedestrian walk. So these are good checks that were done by the police. Also, 3 people who were impaired. Actually, there were 6 calls that we responded to, and we were able to stop 3 of them. Those also that we thought might be impaired, we stopped them, and they were not impaired. There was still we answered the call. And then there's suspensions. Yeah, 3 suspended licenses for impaired driving. So like I say, it was pretty busy. We continued to send our members in the Melançon, Amiro School, Chartersville region. And we're continuing. It won't stop. Just to tell you that for us it went well. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, the only thing I can tell you is to continue. We appreciate the effort. We're going to continue. And by the way, our volunteers, some of our members went to the Arthur G. Leblanc Arena to circulate pamphlets. I don't know if we'd mentioned it. We put these on cars to remind people to lock their doors, especially if there are handbags or something valuable like a computer or something like that. So we're asking people to really be cautious and to lock their doors. We went to the Rotary Park and they also went to the Moncton airport because there are a lot of vehicles who leave their cars there for 2-3 days at a time. So it's somewhere, where people walk around and look to see if there's anything in the cars. They know that the people aren't around. So we're going to be doing this same thing again with pamphlets in the next couple of weeks because Christmas is around the corner. So people go to the shopping centers and cars are full of gifts and they don't lock their doors. So and those parking lots, this is where people are looking for things inside the cars and they check unlocked doors. So we'll be handing these out again in the next couple of weeks. We're putting them on the windshields. Yeah, maybe the Saturday morning market also. The parking lot. Yeah, we could do that too. Thank you. Thank you very much for your interventions, your checkpoints. Anybody else? Madame Le Boutillier. Yeah, following the article in l'Acadie Nouvelle today on the descriptions of the bylaws of 3 municipalities, I think there were 1,400. It was basically on the different reasons why the people were being stopped in the greater Moncton area. I was wondering, because the statistics were over the last 9 months, what was the percentage for Dieppe? I'm more interested in Dieppe. I can check if you want. There'll probably be an increase, but based on that article, I think they were saying that there were 1,400 arrests in the last 9 months in the Moncton-Dieppe Riverview area. So I wanted to find out what the percentage was for Dieppe on the total amount of oh, no, this is not arrests, this is infractions. I can check it out and I'll get back to you on that. So that's all. Thank you. As usual, you're welcome to stay with us, but we do understand if you leave. Okay. Next item, presentation concerning complaints with solid waste and garbage disposal system. Mr. Steve Bossé. Good evening, I'm Steve Bossé. I stay in the Jeannette Street sector. First of all, what I'm going to be talking about tonight is not to complain. Well, in part, yes, but I'm not targeting the municipality or a specific business. It's just to talk about the concerns that we have in our area. So I'm going to start. I'm going to start by showing you some photos. If you look at the photos, this is what we have in our area. You see all the little white spots? Those are the waste that is a little bit everywhere on Jeannette and Surette and the surrounding area. So these are pictures that I took during the month of November. I even took some this morning. So that's it. It's all the waste that's just rolling around. I find that too bad because, I mean, this is 2018 and very often I take a big bag and I go pick that garbage up because sometimes people don't have time or they don't want to pick it up. So this is what we bump into. So this is what usually was in the green bags, but I mean the seagulls and the dogs go and do this type of damage. It's mostly the seagulls. So I had sent the photos to Mr. Mayor, and like I said, it's more of a concern that I have. And I was saying, well, instead of being part of the problem, I want to be part of the solution. So that's why I decided to make a presentation tonight. And I did my due diligence. I went to check out some municipalities. I come from Edmundston area, and they have a system in place for the last 11 years. At the beginning, the citizens were not too happy because you had to purchase the garbage. And I mean, there's no, they don't want to do without now because there's no rats anymore, there's no vermin, there's no so what we realize is that the system, the pickup is totally different from one area to another, and our system, I mean, we have two systems in New Brunswick. Instead of having one, we have two different systems, and I realized that in the north they had approximately the same thing, and then in the southern region it's a little bit different. There's also some regions where this is what we call the green. It's picked up every 2 weeks, except in summer. So you see the pickup, but they don't have the blue and the clear bag. I know that what changed our system is changing our system would be something big. I mean, it's something that has to be talked about and see what we can do. There's a cost to it. And like some people have explained to me, listen, Steve, you have to consider businesses, you have to consider apartment buildings where the system is totally different. For example, my mother-in-law stays in an apartment and she doesn't have to separate because everything is put into one big bin. So eventually we're going to have to do something about that too. I know that change has to happen. That's why I just put other pictures that explains the type of bin or things that we could have, and also what's done elsewhere. Also, this is for the pickup, because I know it's people, guys, who pick those things up with their arms. I know that in our other regions, the bins are too big, so okay, sometimes they have to just dive down basically into the bin to pick up the bags that are in the garbage pails. So having a system like this, it would be good, but everybody has to adjust. The citizens, the municipality, the businesses have to adjust to this type of system. But I think that if we don't start talking about it or doing something about it, eventually, well, we're going to be continued having what we have is garbage all over the place. And you know, Jeannette is right in front of the marsh, and what's really bad is that we realize that there are plastic bags all the way into the marsh, and it's an area that is protected. So I think that it's too bad. I mean, it's a sorry state of affairs. The other regions too, and when they saw me starting to pick up the garbage, well, they started to also go out and pick up the garbage. So we decided maybe with children one Sunday morning, we're going to do that with our children, picking up the garbage around the marsh. It's not our problem, but I mean, if we could get help keeping our municipality clean. So basically, that's what I wanted to talk about. I don't think I had anything else. I mean, if we compare ourselves to other regions, there are regions who do this, and other regions who don't. So obviously, I was ready eventually to maybe set up a committee and get some ideas and bring these ideas to the municipality, have a kind of a study. How much would it cost? What would it take? For example, the region, what they did is that they decided to put all the big waste. There was a certain date to purchase your bin. I think you saved 50% after a certain date, then you paid the full price. There are other regions where it's the municipality who purchased all the garbage bins for everybody. Okay, it's going to be part of our taxes for sure, but still. And there are other regions where it was the citizens who would have to have their own bin. So what I'm presenting tonight here is maybe to see what the municipality is ready to do, what we as citizens are ready to do, what am I as a citizen ready to do, bring forth ideas, establish a committee, and maybe bring forth ideas to the next meeting at the municipality to see what can be done, what kind of support we could get from the municipality of Dieppe. Thank you, Mr. Bossert. Are there any questions from members of council on this subject? Monsieur Godet, I see in the room that there's somebody that represents the business that does the waste pickup. It's not the business, no, but it's the business that has to take care of it afterwards. So we have a lot of constraints as to what we can and cannot do, but maybe there's a solution possible. According to me, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but the biggest part of the problem that we have with the waste pickup is mostly with the green bags. There are a lot of people who refuse to put the green bags in containers. And it's basically these green bags that attract the seagulls because there's food in there. The blue bags, the problem that we have with the blue bags is mostly the wind, but there might be ways to work something out with this. But I would easily see something where people would be, it would be mandatory to put the green bags in a container. I mean, I look at your pictures, and obviously these pictures show that it's basically it's the food, because the blue bags remain intact. So could there be a comment from the network? Monsieur Leblanc, I mean, I want to pull your arm. No, thank you very much. Good points. Absolutely. It's not pleasant having garbage flying around all over the place like that. We're the regional southeast, we accept the garbage from the municipalities. We have 15 municipalities that are a member at the commission. So as you see, the pickup contract, the municipalities are responsible for the pickup. So they pick up their waste and then bring it to us. So all these contracts have different limits at different times. So it's going to be difficult to change things all at the same time. On the other hand, a municipality like Dieppe, they could do, depending on what the councillors want to do. Then you also mentioned on the southeast region, it represents approximately $14 million in bins, black, blue, and clear. It's a little bit different from the municipalities in the north. They have a recycling bin and then a waste bin, or maybe sometimes just bags, or sometimes compost bins. So there are advantages to both. There are a lot of people like Monsieur Bossier who like to have bins. Some other people like bags. What's the good idea about the bags is that there's no limit to the volume. I mean, if I can put if it's very little, I can put my green bag in a bin. If I have two bins, I mean, I'm going to have two bins. So a lot of people have problems with the bins. Other people like the bins. Advantages, disadvantages. Mr. Bossier, I could invite you maybe to visit the site and we can talk about it. And I would be happy to be part of a committee to look into something like this, because we want to hear what the people have to say. Thank you very much. I know that, thank you, Mr. Godet. I know that the system that we have in the region right now is very good. I bought a green bag for home because I recognized that I was same thing. And then Tuesday morning when I go out to go pick up with a shovel what came out of the green bags, and even with the bins, unfortunately, there's certain animals that are more intelligent than others, and they have figured out how to open it. Even if you have something that clicks in your bin, some animals are pretty intelligent. They just push them over, and the impact, it means that the lid is going to fall out. But it's always a challenge. There's a study that was interesting, because obviously we're always looking, bag, bin, study by the University of York in Ontario that said that with the clear bags, it reduces contamination by 8%. It means that in the clear bag, we'd have far fewer recyclables. That means that we could be able to recycle even more. That was an advantage of the clear bags. But the bags to the residents are going to be more expensive. So listen, there are advantages and disadvantages. It's a question of what you want to do. Obviously, there'll be a cost attached to this. And the way I found out is last year, it was picked up early. The waste was picked up early this morning. Right now, it's a little bit later. That means that our problem was elsewhere. So if we were picked up early, the one who was picked up in the afternoon, they had the same problem. So it's not a question of changing the run. It's setting something up. Okay, we'll consider the comments. Monsieur Cormier, I'm saying that an information campaign and awareness campaign with the population to maybe to invite them to get bins for themselves. Like the mayor said, he was tired. I was tired to pick up the garbage that had spilled, so I bought something, and there was a solution for the green bag problem because the birds, the seagulls, they don't have the same type of schedule as me. But I think an awareness campaign would be good. Well, you know, there are people who pick up the spilled garbage like us, but not everybody does that. This morning I did it again, and there was still some waste that was from last week. So, I mean, we could have an awareness campaign for sure, but I mean, if we don't have the obligation of having bins, then the problem is going to be the same. There are other regions, and the other regions I talked about when they decided to set up a system up, it wasn't pleasant. But today, those people, you know, after 7, 8, 10 years, the people are happy because at least they found a solution to the problem. So, like I said, I'll be talking to you at one point or another. See if maybe we could set up a committee to talk about solutions. So I would encourage you to visit the site of the commission, the Waste Commission, and then contact us, contact me, and maybe members of council might be interested in looking into this. Great, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Now, 7.3 presentation from the NB Dialogue Communities, Mr. Monsef Lacroix. I'll never get to pronounce it correctly. That's why I always say Monsef. It's easier, Monsef. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to talk to you again tonight to talk to you about an initiative which is very interesting and innovative. I'm not here to talk about my personal involvement with the dialogue. So, very simply, we'll be talking about the, first of all, thanks to the Municipal Council, and then I'll introduce myself, and then introduce the concept. I'll talk also about the objective of the initiative, which is to establish a committee to talk about social cohesion in Dieppe, and then we'll end up with an appeal to action, and then answer questions. So first of all, I want to thank the City of Dieppe for their involvement, because they are one of the communities of the dialogue. They've joined approximately 50 communities in New-Brunswick who want to create a better dialogue between all the different cultural communities in New-Brunswick. And this goes beyond the linguistic communities, Anglophone, Anglo-Saxon, etc. So when we talk about social cohesion, it's something that involves the 4 cultural communities: the First Nations, Francophones, Acadians, Anglo-Saxons, and immigrants. My name is Monsef Lacroix. I'm a resident of Dieppe. It's been a couple of years, and I'm really happy to be able to contribute to this municipality as I can to its dynamism and short-term and long-term. The concept of NB Dialogue, I think it was already presented to you by Madame Nadine Duguay, who is the CEO of Dialogue New-Brunswick. The concept there was a specific mission to create dialogue between the two linguistic communities in New Brunswick, Acadien francophone and the Anglo-Saxons. Since Nadine took the position of CEO, we're talking about more of a concept of social cohesion. So New Brunswick is more than two communities, as you know. I come from immigration. I've been here for 15 years. 10 years in New Brunswick, 4 or 5 years in Montreal. And the objective is for everyone, including First Nations, Acadiens francophones, Anglo-Saxons, and immigrants, can work together with a common vision to build this province that we love, and eventually to make sure that everybody is concerned and can everybody work together to move everything forward together. So as you know better than I do, at the last election, it was something that we realized that we had to do something to be able to work together much more harmoniously. So Dialogue New-Brunswick, this initiative that you've adopted, consists in creating an action committee formed of citizens of this community to study problems and local opportunities and to find things that we could work on together. The 4 pillars that we're going to be talking about, basically we'll be talking about a political pillar, economic, social, and cultural. The reason for being of these different themes is to make sure that we have a cohesive strategy so that all aspects that help a society move forward, youth, women, anybody who wants to participate, make sure that the quality of life is good for all citizens, and to make sure like events like AfroFest can help move forward. So the objective, basically, of this committee, the committee will be meeting approximately once a month, and those who want to get involved and who want to do something, with the ultimate objective is to work together on municipal initiatives or citizen initiatives. For example, like Steve, who maybe want to get together and do something together to move forward. So the call to action is any citizen that you might know are welcome. They can apply to join this committee. We're looking for 5 to 7 people for an involvement of 1 year to work on initiatives, economic, political, social, or cultural. Maybe talk to me or to Luc Richard, who's been helping us incredibly in this project. So that's it. I can answer any question. Thank you very much for your time. Questions from members of council? So I'd ask members of council to maybe submit names of people who might be interested in joining the Dialogue team. So we'll continue to move forward on this. Thank you very much. So now we go to questions by members of the public. No questions by members of the public? I want to recognize the people from communication who are here tonight. The young people from University of Moncton who are in the communication. So welcome to Municipal Council. Olivier, do we have the soccer players? Inaudible comment. No microphone. Well, we can have the soccer team presentation maybe some other time, if that's okay. So, in this case, we're going to continue with our agenda. Adoption of minutes of the regular council meeting held on October 22nd, 2018. Motion, Madame Arsenault, seconded by Conseiller Alain. Questions on the minutes of the meeting of the 22nd of October? No questions. So all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The minutes of the 22nd of October have been accepted as presented. Next item, 10, motions and nominations. We start with 10.1, administration adoption policy, smoke-free areas. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's the smoke-free areas. It's not the smoking areas. Oh, well, it was my mistake. So I'm still dreaming of my cigar bar. With legalization of cannabis, we decided to have a policy on smoke-free areas, vaping, cannabis, and all that. See, the principles is basically the concentration of cannabis is prohibited in all public areas. We didn't mention it in the policy, but concerning cigarettes and vaping, prohibitions are Article 3. Quickly, it's prohibited to smoke, vape within 9 meters of a municipal building. So there are distances that have been added to the former policy. It's prohibited to do that in a municipal vehicle and within 20 meters of a municipal playground or sports field. That includes the seating. It's also prohibited within 9 meters of a trail that belongs to the municipality. This is in conformity with other acts. So we ask you to adopt this policy. For the reading of the motion, Councillor Leblanc. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council repeal Policy S2 entitled Smoke-Free Areas and adopt the new Policy S2 2018 entitled Smoke-Free Areas. So moved. Moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau on the question. Monsieur Godet. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I have an explanation, maybe more general, on the difference between the use of cannabis as opposed to cigarettes? Because certain paragraphs where cannabis is mentioned and others doesn't mention it. Generally speaking, we cannot smoke cannabis or any type of way of consuming cannabis in the public area. It's not just smoking, but using oils or other types of products. So considering this, I don't manage the smoking of cannabis because the act does it for the municipalities. So there's a number that we can call if we realize that somebody is consuming cannabis publicly, and that will not be the municipality will do that. As for cigarette, vaping and cigarettes, there were already principles in place. There are distances that must be respected concerning buildings or specific areas. So it's less restrictive than for cannabis. Yes, for sure, absolutely. Thank you. Other questions? So for the votes. All those in favor of the resolution, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Resolution is adopted as presented. 10.2, Culture, Leisure, Community Life. 10.2.1, Signing Authority, Application for Funding, Celebrate Canada Program 2019 edition. It says everything, eh? It's pretty simple. So for the reading, Mr. Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council authorized the Chief Administrative Officer Clerk, or in his absence, the Assistant Clerk, to sign the Canadian Heritage Funding application for the Celebrate Canada Program 2019 edition. So moved. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Arsenault on the question. No questions? All those in favor of the resolution, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. There's going to be a party for Canada Day. Fire. Signing authority agreement, civic addressing for emergency dispatch system. It's an agreement with Moncton. It's address, the civic address geo-reference on the emergency dispatch system. It's a good agreement we have with Moncton. It's an hourly rate, $12,500 maximum yearly. Thank you for the reading of this resolution. Monsieur Brideau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council authorized the municipal signing officers to sign an agreement with the City of Moncton pertaining to the civic addressing for emergency dispatch system. Moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Alain. On the question? No question? All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. 10.4, organizational performance. Monsieur Simard. Yes, we're at 10.4.1, public transit pilot project. You remember following a resolution adopted in May, scenarios that were studied, discussed with Kodiak Transport to improve the quality of service in the Lakeburn area. 4 scenarios were kept, shortlisted. We recommend you adopt D for pilot project for 13 weeks. Another bus that would serve Lakeburn area at before motion reading. The Council accepted the Administration's recommendation to implement a 13-week pilot project commencing on January 13th, 2019 for a new bus route serving the Lakeburn area. According to the concept of Scenario D outlined in the memorandum dated September 7th, 2018. So moved. Moved by Councillor Arsenault. Moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Arsenault. For questions now, Monsieur Alain. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Monsieur Richard, 2 things. 13 weeks, is that enough for a pilot project? I like pilot projects. I find that sometimes, I really love pilot projects. But at the end of the day, I'd like to know, is it enough time to make people aware of the new service? Because it's a super great initiative. And then also, is the bus going to go to the university and the hospital? Are they going to be offering the service there at one point? Thank you. It's a good question for the time. 13 weeks is not much. The idea would be 6 months, at least 6 months. The reason why we have 13 weeks is that we have some operational constraints. We have 4 opportunities during the year where we can change bus routes. The 13th of January. So maybe we could extend that, but it becomes a budget problem because we don't have the 2019 budget, so we're trying to work with the budget that we have in a reasonable way. So it's true that it's not long, but we will be able to benefit from the next 2 weeks to be able to announce to people in the sector that we have a new service. So that's an advantage already. We'll be able to communicate that to community. So it might be possible to extend this longer? Yeah, absolutely. On your second question, yes, we do have service at the University of Moncton and the hospitals. The pilot project that was with the Route 72, that's coordinated with our 95 route on Amiro, so people can continue on certain routes during rush hour, and they don't need to have a transfer in Champlain. But generally speaking, people who are on other routes and get to Champlain, they can take 72. They have direct access to hospitals, both, and the university. Great. Thank you. Monsieur Thibaudot. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question was the same as Danielle's, but now that they were answered, I have comments. So I'm wondering if 13 weeks is enough, and if you say that we could extend it, why not do it now? It would give us maybe more serious data, because 13 weeks is not much. It's a question of budget. I have to work within the budget that I have. I know it's not big amounts, but still, it will be discussed next week at the budget, so stay tuned, as we say. But it is true that it's more expensive, but I mean, if we're going to have a pilot project, let's do it so that we have proper data. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Okay, we'll discuss this. Monsieur Godet, thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 points. First of all, if it is a 13-week project, I hope that the evaluation will be done during the 13 weeks, and that at least 1 month before the end, that council be advised of the progress, the success of the project, so that we can make a decision, so that if there is an extension, there won't be any break of service. Secondly, I like people to, I mean, it's going to be the first time for a couple of years that they're going to have a bus service in the Lake Burn area. They should be notified by a letter circulated to their home that mentions the new service. And basically, that letter should also encourage them to use the service, because if they don't use the service, it's a project that will be wasted. And so we should encourage these people to use this service. Yeah, it's the expression, use it or lose it. Madame Le Boutillier, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of questions concerning the pilot project, also concerning the time. Do we have an advisory council that helping you with citizens concerning the service? Not officially, but we did set up a customer committee, people who communicated with us at different times. Maybe a couple of months ago, we set up this committee, which is a not official committee, to meet these people, to hear what they have to say concerning new initiatives and changes. Mr. Mayor, I'd like us to look into this initiative, because when we look at the strategic planning over the next 4 years, I mean, we saw the presentation last time. We're going to be investing millions and millions in the next couple of years for buses. I know people who have started to take the bus. We want to serve more people, but at the same time, we have to make sure that the satisfaction is there with what we're serving. So we have to figure out how to hear what the people have to say. So it's a question of increasing the level. And I mentioned yesterday, listen, would you be interested in sitting in a committee? Because that person finds that we have quite a challenge in the Champlain Mall area during the rush hour. The buses hit traffic, and there are a lot of delays. Maybe there are possible solutions, other things that we could do to improve the service, keeping the costs at reasonable levels. Yes, we're always open to hearing clients, customers, people from the community. I receive calls that they call to the city of Dieppe, or they call Kodiak with suggestions. So if you know of people who have comments to make, send them our way, and we can have them help us unofficially until council decides maybe to do something in a more formal fashion. But right now we like to work with people in an informal fashion. Thank you, Madame Boutillieu. Certainly it is something to be considered, this client committee, in order to obtain more information. So, or maybe do something that we've already talked about, holding an open house by invitation on specific topics, and inviting citizens to come and discuss here in our basically public hall, to have facilitated evenings. It's something that we've discussed about, Monsieur Richard and myself, to choose specific subjects that are important for the clients, have a public consultation, public participation. I think that would be something that would really be appreciated. We'll come back to you on that for sure. Thank you. No other questions on public transit? So following the questions, without forgetting the comments that were made on extension, we can maybe think about it during our budget deliberations next week. So we'll keep that on the back burner for the time being. So now for the vote on the resolution as such. It's item 10.4.1. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The resolution is carried as presented. Item 14. No, sorry. 10.5. Planning and Development. Monsieur Simard. Yes, so recommendation here to accept the recommendation from the Planning Advisory Commission on rezoning application Z10 to permit parking on Olivier Street, as it was mentioned. Thank you. For the reading of the resolution, Monsieur Godet. The Council accept the recommendation made by the Planning Advisory Committee on October 17th, 2018, relating to an amendment to the zoning map pursuant to Bylaw Z10 2017, relating to land identified under PIDs 00669440 and 009281143, as well as an amendment to the parking lot design requirements as outlined in Schedule A of the memorandum dated November 1st, 2018. The Council further accept that the application be subjected to Article 59 of the Community Planning Act with the following terms and conditions: that the land identified under PID 00669440 and 009281143 be amalgamated before a development permit is issued for the commercial parking lot. 2. That the commercial parking lot landscaping be completed pursuant to the landscaping plan entitled Conceptual Landscaping Plan, October 17, 2018, as outlined in Schedule B of the memorandum dated November 1st, 2018. So moved. Moved by Councillor Godet, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. On the question, Monsieur Alain. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be addressing Monsieur Fredette. Before the decision, the resident on the left, they had a certain amount of warning, or maybe he gave his opinions to the PAC. Well, in the process, during the public hearings, when we make the presentation, the public hearing, this is when we invite people to come to object, and it is not during the Planning Advisory Committee meeting. So every time there's a rezoning, when you take the resolution and you start the process, the following day there's a letter that's sent to the neighbors in a radius of 100 meters where we invite them. We tell them about the project, and we invite them either to send us a letter prior to a certain date where they can talk about their objections, concerns. We invite them also, if they don't want to send a letter, we invite them to be present, either to defend or to talk about their objections or to address council at that public hearing. We also invite them to consult the bylaw during office hours, and we invite them to call us if they have any questions, if they want some more information. So there are 4 ways that we try to get these people involved. We give them the possibility for these people in the neighborhood to talk about their concerns or their objections. So for this project, the neighbor didn't communicate with us. He didn't follow through on the letter that he received. On the other hand, he talked to somebody on council, and I think that his concerns, we can explain it. There was a question of snow removal that was a concern for him. In commercial zones, it is the responsibility of the business people to make sure that the snow be hauled off their site. It's the same thing for residential areas. We can't send the snow on the neighbor's yard. There's also a question of lighting for the parking lot, but here once again in the zoning bylaw there are specific details as to how the light should be properly installed in order not to be a nuisance to the neighboring. I mean, in section Schedule B, we added something to make sure that the vehicles, because since he had just asked windows on those 2 sides, we just want to make sure that the vehicles who are going to enter this parking lot, their lights will not be, the beams, the lights of the car will not be a nuisance to the windows. So we can see that on Schedule B. And the last concern that was raised, that people who are going to be doing off-road from Olivier Street to Sainte-Thérèse Street, if I'm not mistaken. But here, once again, it could happen, but if we look at the building horizon, there's the same type of landscaping from Sainte-Thérèse to Sunset, but if we just look across the property, there's from Champlain to Olivier, you can have access also in a straight line, and it's the same thing with the Canadian Tire, from one street to another. And for that lot, there's something specific. The entrance is not ahead to Horizon or Olivier and Champlain. I mean, you can see face to face. If we look at the aerial picture, we see that the entrance in the back of the building at 438 is hidden, so that maybe will prevent people from doing that off-road shortcut. But once again, it's not guaranteed. During the day when there are vehicles, I mean, we don't speed in the parking lot. Concerning other comments, with the conditions that we have and with the sector, there are things in the bylaw that will probably mitigate nuisance. Is there a way? I see that there are trees on Olivier Street. Would there have been a possibility after the fence to have more trees on both sides to help residents? To be able to have a certain amount of enjoyment of their backyard. It's a possibility, something that council could impose at third reading. If you judge that it would help the appearance, but you have to remember that there's just 2 meters of width for grass, so planting trees could be a problem. Question, for example, with snow removal. I mean, trees may not be able to survive. We'd considered the trees, and there's some trees that'll have to be cut down. But concerning the front, if you want to impose conditions on the south side, it's something that you can do. But I'm saying that if a question of snow, it's going to be on both sides of on both yards. I mean, this is not the best of developments, but I mean, we can't prevent development either. It's just that it's awkward. I mean, if we put ourselves in the place of the residents, it's not really clear. Thank you, Monsieur Thibodeau. Thank you. With all the details given by Monsieur Frenette, I got my answers. Monsieur Brideau. Thank you. Question to Monsieur Frenette. Complaints that I received from people, the neighbors, snow, because last year it was pushed against the fence of an elderly gentleman, and they broke the fence, and when he made the comment, they laughed at him. On that property, yes, just behind, because it's like an L shaped with a parking that is already there. And the other point was that it's the crosswalk, because we thought it was going to be plugged on Olivier, so it would be back and forth. So the question that he asked me directly was, when they're going to push the snow against my fence, they're going to break the fence, are you, the municipality, going to do something if I complain? And I wasn't able to give him an answer. Obviously, if we didn't impose a fence and they put a fence and then the snow is pushed onto, there's some situations where, even in residential areas, there are certain cases where, unfortunately, these are civil cases. So maybe, Monsieur Simard, you can validate this. We're talking about 2 neighbors who have a conflict. So the municipality is not going to be paying for the damaged fences. And it wasn't done with an official complaint, but it was a concern. Thank you. Maybe if I could just add, that's why it's important for us to know these things when we give the time. We can change things. We can make modifications. We only learn about it afterwards, once it's been through the Planning Advisory Committee. We do with our best in judging what we can do, but I mean, we're not the ones who live in the sector, so it helps when people give us information. It's like the policeman who says it's not 2 weeks later that we want to know that somebody was speeding on Chartersville. It's important. People should call us, send us emails or something like that, so we can be knowledgeable about it. Yeah, because basically they receive a letter in the home. So they should act. It's actually, they should have the duty to act or to do something. Madame Le Boutillier, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's more information that I need because I think you've answered quite a few questions. The concerns of citizens, and I liked what Monsieur Alain raised. We have to ensure, we have to protect these citizens. It has an impact when the municipality changes the bylaw. So my question was on speed. Do we have a recourse in the future, for example, for a question of speed, we take shortcuts. Is there a way that the municipality can do something? Establish maybe other rules? Or can we impose something else once the bylaw has been adopted? I don't think that the rezoning, I don't think the question of speed should be addressed in the rezoning. Okay, we're going to be voting on something. If there's a challenge concerning this situation, do we have a recourse, either imposing something else, a change? I can't answer your question. Maybe if somebody else from administration can answer this. Maybe just to check, are you trying to ask if we can modify conditions once we've voted on the bylaw? Is that the question? Here now we're going to be imposing some conditions. It's changeable, yes, but usually it's there are clauses in the Act that say that if the developer cannot respect the imposed conditions, then we can take his rezoning away. So no, wasn't my intention to talk about changing, but maybe do things in the street to avoid shortcuts, like we did, for example, to the aquatic center, where we put a barrier to prevent people from not using the parking appropriately. If I may, I know that we had the question with the petitioner, and he was aware. He didn't see that as a problem because he doesn't see it. I explained to him the shape of his parking lot with the fencing. There are certain sections where during the day there would be barriers, but basically at night when there are no vehicles, his intention, he wants to be a good business person in the sector. He wants to be a good neighbor. That's his intention. So if it was a recurring problem, then he would be open for sure to possible changes. I mean, owners for more than 40 years, the owners of the property, that is, the initial property, the commercial property, they're the owners for 40 years, and now he's just purchased the other one. He wants to make it bigger because he wants to make a parking lot. But the type of business that is there now has changed a lot, and I think that's what he had explained to us when he came here. We asked him to express himself. But I mean, like we say, there's always a way of finding a way. We have to talk to one another. Thank you. Monsieur Alain, second shot. I mean, Councillor Boutillier raises a good question. Can we add conditions? Tonight, yes. No. After we've voted. No, it's only the petitioner that can do that. So I think all the questions got answers. I don't see any more lights. So all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented. which brings us to item 10.6, information technology. For the reading of the resolution, Madame Arsenault, purchase assistive listening systems. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council authorized the purchase and installation of assistive listening systems, which will be installed in the Council chambers, the City Hall's main reception, and the Aquatic and Sports Center's reception. So moved, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Councillor Arsenault, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau on the question. A comment, if I may? Yes. I'm really happy to have read this motion. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, the motion. And thank you to Réal Légère, the president of the hearing impaired people, for having raised this topic, and also to the municipality for having reacted so quickly and responded to the reaction of our citizens. Thank you very much. I think that thank you to you for having raised the problem. Thank you to our director, Monsieur Sean, for having worked on this file as hard as he did to find a solution that is going to be good for everybody. That being said, all those in favor of the resolution, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented, which brings us to the municipal bylaws, starting by Z10 2017-3. It's 11.1.1, first reading by title only, and then we'll go to the second reading. Monsieur Cormier for the first reading by title. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bylaw number Z-10, 2017-3, bylaw to amend the City of Dieppe zoning bylaw. So moved, first reading by title only. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Alain on the question. No question. All those in favor of this resolution by title only, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The zoning bylaw Z10 2017-3 carried. First reading. Second reading by title only. Once again, Monsieur Cormier. Thank you. Bylaw number Z-10 bracket 2017-3. Bylaw to amend the City of Dieppe zoning bylaw. So moved. Second reading title. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Alain. Alain, you have a comment? Yes. Could I add an amendment, maybe, that we could put trees on the side? There's an amendment that is being moved. Monsieur Simard, is that okay? Because this is a zoning bylaw. That type of amendment has unexpected repercussions. So before proceeding with the third and final reading, maybe we should ask our professionals, experts, to see if it's possible. And then we could have a report on the question to make sure that we know where we want to put the trees, because it's not clear. So, Monsieur Frenette, you've taken note of this, and you come back to us for the next meeting. So we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor of the second reading, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. So we go now to Bylaw C27, authorizing the City of Dieppe to permanently close a portion of the Rue Paul Street extension. Monsieur Simard, before going forward, I want to explain that we're going to be closing a street that exists only on paper. It's a project of Paul Street extension that is going to end up around Alain Gillette Street. So there are plans. We figured that the street was going to go somewhere, but now we figure it's going to go elsewhere. That's why we have to proceed with this permanent closure. Thank you for the clarification. So, for the reading in its entirety, Monsieur Leblanc, you ready? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bylaw number C-27, a bylaw authorizing the city of Dieppe to permanently close a portion of the Rue Paul Street extension. Be it enacted by the Municipal Council of the City of Dieppe, whereas Section 10(1)(pp) of the Local Governance Act, Chapter 18 of the Statutes of New Brunswick 2017 authorizes City Council to make bylaws for municipal purposes respecting the temporary and permanent opening and closings of roads, streets, and highways. And whereas the future extension of Paul Street will not follow the alignment identified in Schedule A hereto attached, but will be rather be located further to the south. Now therefore be it resolved that from the date of ordaining and passing of this bylaw, the portion of the public street herein mentioned and specified in Schedule A be permanently closed. So moved. First reading in its entirety. Moved by Councillor Blanc, seconded by Councillor Arsenault on the question. No question? All those in favor of the adoption of the reading in its entirety for C-27, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. C-27 is carried. Reading in its entirety. Now we're going to go to the third reading by title only. Bylaw number C-27, bylaw authorizing the city of Dieppe to permanently close a portion of the Rue Paul Street extension. So moved. The third reading by title only. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Arsenault. Third and final reading, C-27. All those in favor of the resolution, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. C-27 has been carried. In third and final reading. Z-2-2018. Respecting dangerous or unsightly premises. First reading by title only. Monsieur Alain, please. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bylaw number Z-2-2018. A bylaw of the municipality of Dieppe respecting dangerous or unsightly premises. So moved. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Alain, seconded by Councillor Brideau on the question. No question? All those in favor of adopting this municipal bylaw, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried. First reading by title only. We go to the second reading by title only once again. Monsieur Alain, bylaw number Z-2-2018, a bylaw of the municipality of Dieppe respecting dangerous or unsightly premises. So moved. Moved by Councillor Alain, seconded by Councillor Brideau, that we adopt bylaw Z-2-2018. All those in favor of the resolution, so I was saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Z-2 is carried in second reading by title only. That's it. That's all. So now, before going to inquiries and announcements by members of council, we have communication students, as I mentioned earlier, who are here tonight. Once again, I want to welcome them, those who came a little later. And I want to encourage you, one at a time, to come to the mic and to introduce yourselves. Tell us what year you're in, what country you come from, and hoping that you will stay with us. Go ahead, one after the other, please. People certainly from communication department are not shy. I know, Olivier, you are not shy. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Councillor Olivier Osen. I'm a resident at Dieppe here. It's been more than 10 years that I've been in New-Brunswick with my family. I'm a student in fourth year, political science, minor in journalism. Thank you. Bonsoir, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Claudia de Bonze. I come from Cameroon, and in my final year of a BA, major in Infocom, Public Relations, and minor in Education. Good evening, Monsieur le Maire, ladies and gentlemen. Christina Cormier. I'm from Dieppe, New Brunswick, and I study in the Infocom in second year, major journalism and minor in English. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, members of council. Naomi Véronique. I'm from Congo. It's my first year, so I just got here 3 months ago. How do you like our beautiful snow? Yes, very nice. It's a little cold, but I'll get used to it. But cold, I'm not sure if I get used to it. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen. Jenna Magian. I come from Senegal. I'm last year in public relations, minor in sociology. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen. Ungamufui. I come from Ivory Coast, first year in Infocom. I arrived in New-Brunswick in August. Welcome. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mayor. Youssef Adeli. I'm from Tunisia. Study in Infocom, minor in Poli-Sci. It's my first year. I got to Canada last year in January. And right now I have a major in Infocom. And maybe I'll have 2 minors in public policies and Poli-Sci. Thank you to all. It's really a great pleasure to have you here. As some, like Monsieur Monsef, who talked earlier during the meeting, he knows very well that one of the objectives of the municipality of Dieppe is to get involved with international students who come here, because you're basically doing us a favor by being here, and I hope that you will adapt yourself to our community, to the university community, but to our broader community in the area. That you will find jobs here that will help you to stay with us, because we need you. Thank you very much. Sorry for forcing you kind of to go up to the mark, but thank you very much for doing it. So now we go to the 4 minutes of allocated to each member of council. I think Monsieur Godet should start this 4-minute round. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things that I want to raise. Madam Spencer, if you don't have the answers on what's been done on Charlersville and elsewhere, if it's not tonight, I'd like to have them at the next meeting if it's possible. Madam Spencer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Gaudier, we're finalizing the data. We'll be making a presentation on the 26th of November. Thank you. The other point is that I suppose that skating in the Oval will be starting this weekend. Can somebody confirm this? Monsieur Bourque. Yes, that's our objective, is to be able to skate during the weekend. Yeah, we saw this morning that they were working at it. So sharpen your skates. The third point, I wanted to mention that the New-Brunswick Economic Council is going to hold its banquet on the 17th of November. And at that banquet, there'll be finalists for the Coup de Cœur Award. One of our businesses in Dieppe, Mistral Communications, is one of the finalists. So for those who can vote, who are a member of council, I encourage you to vote, support our businesses, and secondly, that if you want to also attend, communicate with the Economic Council. It's a very important banquet for our entrepreneurs in the region of New Brunswick. Thank you very much. Thank you, Monsieur Leblanc. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, it's time to talk about the Santa Claus Parade. This year, the annual parade of the Greater Moncton will be on the 24th of November at 5 p.m. from West Street, Vaughan Harvey, towards Dieppe. So I invite all citizens to join us for the Santa Claus Parade, once again, the 24th of November, starting at 5 p.m. Thank you, Monsieur Leblanc. Monsieur Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to congratulate the Mathieu Matin Martyrs for their victory in Halifax at the secondary school tournament. And I'd also like to say thank you to the coaches, because it's doing a lot of good work. Thank you. Monsieur Brideau. Tonight, I want to congratulate the students from Moncton High for the organization and the presentation of the Remembrance Day activities. Good work, great presentation. There were two presentations. Everything was prepared by the youth. It was a great homage to the veterans, and I'd like to also ask people to participate in the Tree of Hope at the community college. During the whole day, there'll be activities, singers, artists, very well-known artists from the region. So I invite you to be there, because it's a special event. And equally, also, there's Déréné, the 30th of November. He is the one who's going to be being at breakfast at the Journée de Radioton, the Radiothon for l'Arbre de l'Espoir, the Tree of Hope. Yes, Madame Le Boutillier, just a point. I'd like us, on Chartersville and Central Street, lighting was changed. Is it possible? It's very dark, so not necessarily immediately, but maybe I'd like to see if there's a possibility of improving lighting in that area, especially now when night falls early. If we could improve the lighting. That's all. It's noted. Thank you. Councillor Thibodeau. Not tonight, Mr. Mayor. Madame Councillor Arsenault. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of points. I'd like to mention that the 24th I went to the Innovation Center in Learning Techniques with other members of council. Lise Boutellier, Ernest Thibodeau, Jean-Claude Cormier, Monsieur Maire, Yvon Lapierre was there. There was a presentation by Dr. Jacques Robichaud. Presentation was excellent. Really, I thank Dr. Jacques Robichaud for his presentation. It was fantastic. And the 24th also was the Greater Moncton Council, the Commerce, the Award of Excellence in Business. There were some councillors there. It's not mentioned that Sock Walk won the Excellence Award. So I was really happy about that. I almost stood up to say hooray. And the other that won an Award of Excellence for the Greater Moncton was Magma. So once again, congratulations to these two organizations. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much, because I was really proud of both of them. The 27th of October was at the Rotary Pavilion of Saint-Anselme Park. Was a forum on well-being, women with cancer, women from everywhere in New-Brunswick and Nova Scotia. They met to talk, exchange, to have something positive for the day. There were approximately 60 women who were there, and there was a Madame Claire Leblanc who was the organizer. So once again, thank you very much, because it was a great day. The 11th of November was proud to say that everybody from council was at the Armistice for Peace, a little bit everywhere, and I was happy and proud to see everybody there. It's nice to see that everybody basically celebrates peace. Thank you, Madame Arsenault. Monsieur Alain. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a former poli-sci person, we have to thank Brian Galland, Roger Mélenchon, for the work and the devotion for their writings. I say this sincerely, that they worked really hard to deliver things for Dieppe. I'm convinced that their story is not finished, but you have also the Higgs government, a new premier, a former colleague of Dieppe, and who's at the head of cabinet, Paul Dastou. So we'll be working with these good people. I also like to talk about the good work of Expansion Dieppe with Innovation. It was a network evening. Two great businesses, Flying Boat and Cocaroc, and finally Jacinthe Bourque, a real Acadian. It was an honor for me to have a picture with Jacinthe. Also 60 years of Construction Acadienne, the Savoie family. There was an event lately, so congratulations to the whole family for this beautiful business in our industrial park in Dieppe. And finally, the 11th of November, we have good veterans. Something. It was a very beautiful ceremony, well organized. I am really proud to be part of this municipality where there are veterans who consider the sacrifice of the veterans who were there for the ceremony. And at Mathieu Martin, it was really beautiful. So I thank them for everything they've done. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all. As far as I'm concerned, as it was mentioned, I invite everybody to come with us on the 30th of November at the breakfast, the Mayor's Breakfast, which is the launch of the Tree of Hope campaign at the Community College in Dieppe. I want to also mention the Francofête in Acadie here in Dieppe. It was very successful over the last week. Very beautiful participation from the public and also the broadcasters from a little everywhere in Europe who came to see the different talents here with some activities outside. And then next week, I mean, culturally, we continue with the FICFA, the International Francophone Film Festival in the Atlantic region. So we will be there, we will be participating, and we hope to see you there. And that's the end of our evening. Good evening to all.